Hi, this is Mordechai Torchiner with Beit Midrash Zichron Dov, and I'm here to present the next 3 videos in our daily dose of Torah videos, which we are sending out every day this summer. To receive these videos in email, please go to the link in the description below this video. If you could also like and subscribe to our channel, that would be wonderful. Okay, so my series of 3 videos is going to be on vegetarianism in the thought of Rav Avram Yitzchak HaKohen Kook. And the way I want to handle these 3 videos is that for the first one, I want to talk about the problem of being an omnivore, how exactly Judaism perceives consumption of animals. Then in the second video, I want to talk about Rav Kook's promotion of vegetarianism. And then in the third video, talk about why he said, yeah, but not yet. So a series of 3 videos, and I've just given it to you in about, 30 seconds. All right, let's talk about the problem of being an omnivore. The Torah identifies many purposes for food. We eat food as a means of survival, right? That's found already in the first chapter in Bereshis. Hashem tells us all about the different kinds of food, basically plants, that are given to us to eat for our survival. Later on in the Torah, we find out about food as a religious tool. So we have mitzvos like Oneg Shabbos, eating on Shabbos in order to increase our pleasure of the day in Yeshaya chapter 58. In Esther, we talk about Mishlalach Manos, sending gifts of food to others. We have meals that are in honor of a mitzvah. We have karbanos that we eat from, and so on. But how do we relate to having animals as a source of the food that we eat? So this is certainly curious when you look back at that first chapter in Bereshis and you recognize that, in fact, Hashem gave us specifically plants to eat, Esev Zorea Zera, grasses, Kol Eitz Asher Bo Pri Eitz, trees that have fruit, and that's it. When Hevel raises sheep, right, in the beginning of the Torah, in Bereshis chapter 4, he does it just for the wool and the milk. He's not eating the sheep. We are vegetarian until after the Mabul, until after the flood. So why did that even change? And it's especially curious in light of a comment by Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch in his book Chorev, it's Chorev chapter or paragraph number 415, in which he says the following, English translation from the German: there are probably no creatures that require more the protective divine word against the presumption of man than the animals, which like man have sensations and instincts, but whose body and powers are nevertheless subservient to man. So Rav Hirsch speaks of a responsibility to care for animals. How do we understand the license to eat meat? So suggestions vary, right? Some suggest that, well, people need the nutrition from the meat, especially the suggestion that there was some kind of a change in the state of human health after the flood, and now we need that meat, which we didn't need before. Okay. Another approach is that our relationship to the animals actually changed. Ramban Nachmanides wrote about this in the 13th century. He pointed out that in original creation, human beings and animals are co-creations of God. We are inhabitants of Hashem's world with our own missions. To give my translation of his text, he says, moving, living spirits have a soul to some degree, in which regard they resemble thinking spirits. They can make choices to help themselves and to feed themselves. They flee from pain and death, and so on. And Ramban argues that the relationship between human beings and animals changed with the flood. He argues that when the Torah says, Hishchis kol basar es darko al haaretz, that all flesh had corrupted its way, that means that animals had their own mitzvos of some kind. They have their own relationship with God, and that they had corrupted it just as human beings had pre-flood, and that the only reason they were saved was not because of some Noach of the animals, but because of the human Noach. And that meant that they stopped being co-creations, co-inhabitants of the world, but they actually became the property of Noach and his family, in whose merit they were saved. Listen to his words, my translation. When they sinned, they meaning everything, and all flesh warped its path on earth, it was decreed that the animals should die in the flood. For Noach's sake, some of them were saved to maintain their species. And so God gave humanity permission to slaughter and eat animals. the animals were only maintained for Noah's sake. So that's another explanation that's offered for why we were able to eat animals post-flood. Well, in the next two videos, we're going to explore a different approach to why it is that we're allowed to eat animals and when that should stop in the thought of Rav Kook. So please come back tomorrow. Hopefully you are subscribing to the emails that send out the videos and you'll get it right there in your inbox, and we'll be able to discuss the thought of Rav Kook. Thank you very much.